And we're recording. Okay. Hey, everybody. What's up? Kelsey here. I am joined tonight by one of our former clients, Molly, who is absolutely crushing it as a young professional, living out her, dare I say, dream career. But I will let her tell you about that. Molly, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
No, of course. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Totally. I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of people. So I was really happy that you agreed to come on. So let's start with where you're at right now. So you graduated with a degree from University of Toronto and wanting to get a job in youth justice.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit about what you're doing right now.
So right now, I currently work at the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services within the Youth Justice Division as an executive assistant for a director in our corporate branch.
Wow. Okay, even just hearing you say that. Wow. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to rewind back a few years to university. And I think this will just be of such value to a lot of our parents and students who see university as kind of like this Mount Everest. And it's like, how am I going to get out on the other side and actually put everything that I learned or was supposed to learn and know to use, in a job that I actually really love, that I'm good at, that pays well, etc. So bring us back to going into first year university. Was it roses from the beginning? Was this like an easy path for you? Tell us a bit about what that transition was like for you.
It definitely was not easy. So after high school, I went to college, graduated college, a 2-year program, and then that's when I went to university. And definitely was hard. The transition was a lot. It was very stressful. I found that college and high school don't really prep you for what you experience in university.
Okay, let's unpack that just a little bit, because like high school meant to, but often we see a lot of like grades drop and a lot of kids, fail out or not feel confident after high school. But tell us a bit more about the college piece, because that is totally meant to be like a nice segue, right?
No, definitely. And I enjoyed college a lot, but I just found that college is like what everyone says. It's a lot of hands-on practical experiences and like work-related courses and things like that. But I find like with like the degree of writing, assignments, that type of work, it's not the same level as university. So I don't think it prepares you enough for or bridge that gap at all for university.
Gotcha. Okay. So university was a bit of a surprise as far as was it like the volume of the work, or just how hard it was, or how hard the grading was? What was it that was the biggest challenge?
I would say all of that. I think it was grading. I think it was the work. I think it was the readings, like to get to a class and then say, okay, you have 2 chapters of the readings that you have to do, and then plus the other 3 classes that you have to do, or 3 or 4 classes. Like I think the workload, and then you put all this pressure on yourself that you feel like you have to get all of that done and like know it all and understand it. So I think that was like a really huge hard part.
Totally. So what did you do? Like, was it when you started, how long did this kind of struggle go on for? Did you figure out kind of how to balance it? Like essentially how long went by before you realized like this is a problem?
I think my first semester, I did my full first semester like by myself without getting any support or anything like that. And I think after that, like my parents saw that I was like really stressed. I'd call them and I talked to them and be like, I don't know if I can do this. And that's when they encouraged me to reach out to get support. And that's when I found you. And I think it was, after my first semester, my first year. And then it got better.
Okay. So your parents were observant, obviously, about this is super hard, this is super stressful, our kid's not happy.
Yeah.
Did they did they try to help you, or did you go to like the university's resources or try anything like that?
I didn't go to the university's resources or tools. I think in a way that is a bit intimidating, especially like first year, first semester. I feel like it can be a lot. So I didn't. I just started going online, like looking for tutors, like downtown Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us a bit more about that, because this is something we find a lot of colleges and universities, they have resource centers, and, every student journey is different and every student experience is different. I know some students, really enjoy and benefit from it. But most of the ones that at least come across our paths, it doesn't work for them, or they're intimidated, or there's just something about that that piece where it's not personalized enough or there's something that's missing? Like, tell us a bit more about why that wasn't really a resource for you.
Well, I don't even think I thought of it, to be honest, but I think that just shows you right there. Like, I don't think they're promoted. And then I don't think that it's also to that, for me, I feel like it was like intimidating to be at like a new school in a new city in a new environment and then be like stressed out with all of the like work. And then try and make time to go and like make an appointment for these places, but then they're busy or they take a long time. And like you said, like, I don't think they're personalized for like every individual. So I don't think it was realistic.
Yeah. That's an interesting confluence of variables for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you sought out help and we started working together, but what were you hoping to get out of it? Like, were you like, I need help with reading comprehension and assignment completion? Or were you just like what were your goals or the motivations behind reaching out? Did you just want a certain grade minimum? Like,
I think I wanted my grades to be better, of course, but I also think I wanted to like not be as stressed and to be more confident with my work and to just enjoy my university experience. Whereas with what was happening, that wasn't happening for me. I was always stressed. So I wanted like relief. I want like my grades to go up, and I just wanted to be more confident too with the work that I was doing.
Okay. I love that. I love that it's not just about the grades, which I just think is so important. And if you could speak a bit more to that, I think our viewers, especially our parents of students, who feel like it's all about the grades, or maybe parents themselves who are pressuring their kids to get great grades. Like, good grades are great, but for you, it seems like it was a lot more than the grades. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Definitely. And I think that's something too that I feel like I wish I would have known earlier on, is that it's not all about the grades. It's not all about that like 80-90%. And I think that is a huge stressor when you're putting that on yourself, especially first year, that, okay, I have to get these, like the best grades. I have to get 80s, 90s, when in my opinion, that wasn't really what it was about. And as soon as I took that away and I just focused on like my work, and like, I was okay with getting a 70, and I was okay with getting even sometimes, you know what, if it was a high 60, I was okay with that, as long as I was okay with the work that I was submitting and I knew that I was learning from what I was doing.
Love that. And I just want to qualify, because I know we have a lot of people in the States. 80 and 90 in Canada is A's. And I think in the States, it's like 90 and above is an A, 80 and above is a B, which is still valid, right? A's and B's are great, but just wanted to qualify that. Okay. So that's fantastic. So you had a clear vision. This is what I want my student experience to be like. So after that first term of like a lot of stress, like you said, like what were some of the things that changed or that made it less stressful or less feeling like a struggle? Like, are there like a couple like key things that happened that changed things?
Well, I think finding you was
which I was not fishing for, by the way, but
but I definitely think that's what it was finding you and your company and all the people that I work with within your company. And it wasn't even like, I went into it just being like, oh, okay, like I'm going to write a paper and I'm going to send it to you and you're just going to edit it. And that's, I thought, what our relationship would be like. But we met twice a week. Like, we were going over every subject I was in and like going over my readings. Like, it was, and I think that's where it became so helpful, because you were really just like involved in the whole process with me.
I love that. And you've just actually triggered a flashback of, I think it was probably one of our first couple of weeks meeting. I was like, all right, like, what are your readings? And you're like, well, I've got this paper. I'm like, okay, no, like, let's back it up. And I think you were like, who is this person I've invited into my home?
That's definitely what I thought.
Oh, that's so funny. So, okay. So from that, like, cause yeah, a lot of what we do is more holistic support. Like, we see like it's super broken if you're thinking it's okay, I need help with this one paper. And it's like, you might, but for reasons that extend far beyond that one paper, right? Like, it's for all classes, all that stuff. So what were some of the things, like you've mentioned, essay writing, the volume of reading, what were just some of the things that you felt, skills that you had built or kind of milestones that you overcame? Like, were there any aha moments where you're like, every kid should have this, or like, I wish I'd had this sooner, anything like that?
Well, I think like I have mentioned essay writing, I guess, a lot, but I think that was like a main thing because I think, and it could have been essays, it could have been any type of writing assignment that you taught me how to really understand that, like break it down piece by piece and complete it in stages. Whereas I think before I would have gotten an essay assignment and done it maybe a week before, all in one shot, kind of maybe not understanding it fully. So I think that was a main thing, like that, and I was able to use it in different ways as well, just being able to break the assignment down, understand it fully before I moved on, and then have different buckets of information, have outlines, have detailed outlines, like all the different steps that, again, that made it feel so much easier because you weren't just piling everything into one night of writing. You were doing it step by step, and then I felt more confident with my finished product.
That's awesome. That's huge. And it also makes my heart happy that you remember some of our steps. Like, I like that they're ingrained in there. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's huge, because even just what you said there, that gave me a bit of anxiety as far as like sitting down, you know, maybe a week before it's due or the night before, just to actually write it. And I think that is, I would say like 95% of students approach it like that. Like they don't deconstruct the guidelines very often. They don't even realize that they're not understanding the assignment. And it's just such a shame, as far as like, you're probably not going to get a very good grade, but also like you're wasting time because you're not really learning and you're not going to get a good grade.
No, exactly. And I think too, like that factors into test taking as well, because I remember even you said, don't like block out the answers, like read the question fully before and understand it before you even go on to the answers. Whereas before I would have like read everything, got so nervous, oh, I don't know this. And it just would have ruined my whole test taking, because I would have just been so absorbed in like in one thing that I didn't know. And even that like was a really good thing to learn.
That's huge. Yeah. So what I'm hearing for, as far as kind of a turnaround, was with the strategies. Like it's not like you just have to sit down and muddle through it and figure it out and hope for the best. Like there are these steps that you can do, and it actually can help. It actually makes things easier or more efficient or better.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So this happens end of first term, first year. And then based on everything you've just shared, like what changed, or how was the rest? Walk us through a bit of the rest of your university experience. Like did it turn into what you had hoped it would become, like more enjoyable, less stressful, more learning?
I think there was always stress. Like I think there was always
reality check.
Stress,
there's always
right? Like throughout university, but I think after like contacting you and been working with you, I think my stress was manageable, and I think I learned how to deal with it and put those pieces in place so I wasn't getting stressed a lot, like closer to deadlines and on tests and things like that. But yeah, no, it got better. I think I was more confident with the work I was submitting. I was able, like you said, at first I thought you would just edit my papers, and that wasn't that. Like we were able to, you know, have discussions about the things I was learning and things that I thought that were interesting. Like I'd be able to talk to you about it and just have those types of discussions. So I think like that was like really made a good impact too as well.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. I definitely I have really good memories, and also just takeaways from seeing you have some aha moments and like some things about from pretty controversial stuff like religion, like lots of like different buckets in there, and like actually taking in your theorists and applying it to like what was happening at the time in the real world, and like making those connections and stuff. That's where the learning happens, right? Like taking what is coming off the page and then actually like working your way through it out loud.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That's awesome. Okay. So you're learning to submit these assignments with less stress. I guess fast forward to close to fourth year, and when you are beginning to get ready to transition out of university. And what was that like? Like when were you for the job hunt? Like how did that look for you?
I think it was an exciting time. I'll also say like it did go by fast. Like to think like I did 4 years of university, like looking back on that now, like is crazy to me, but it did go by fast. And the fourth year was probably the best year because I was finishing, but there was also still like a lot of work to be done as well. But yeah, no, it was definitely good. And then, yeah, the thought of like what I'm going to do after school, then that was always a question that was on my mind, but I was able to figure it out.
Yeah. So tell us more about that because I know, especially I say nowadays, I date myself, but like there's a lot of different, co-op opportunities or job stuff. Like what did you do throughout undergrad as far as like exploring your career options? Because you did a double major in socio and equity studies.
Yeah.
So as far as kind of like exploring what career paths that could go down, what did you do for that?
So I actually didn't do a lot of stuff during university. I did end up having a part-time job. But other than that, I didn't really do any like co-ops or things like that.
What
But
was your part-time job?
my part-time job was being in a secretary, like an admin assistant at Turning Point Youth Services. So it was like a youth shelter. So it definitely kind of was in the field that I wanted to pursue. So that was good. And it was a really good experience as well. And it kind of opened a lot of doors for me moving forward, like when I did graduate. But I didn't do any co-ops or anything like that.
And yeah, and don't even, I just said co-ops because that's one of the main things, but what you did, I mean, that's just as equally valuable, obviously. And actually, question for you here, because this is something we hear a lot too, where it's especially always from high school and sometimes still from university kids, which is a bit sadder, but this theory, I'm never going to use it. Like it's never going to apply to what I do. So when you were doing this part-time work in a job setting that was relevant, or was it relevant? That's my question, I guess, was what you were learning in the classroom. Did you feel like it really translated and applied to what you were experiencing at the youth shelter? Or did you find there was a disconnect?
I feel like sometimes there was a connection. I feel like in like first and second year of university, that's where you're taking like mandatory classes, like statistics, things like that, where, okay, yeah, that's not really going to have a connection, but really when you get to third and fourth year, you have a bit more say in what you can choose to take. So I think that's when the connection started to happen. And especially in equity studies, my other major that I majored in, it definitely was a connection for what I wanted to do within youth justice. I will say, like, my one thing that I will take away from university is it changed the way I think now and I view things and see the world. It's very different than before before I started university.
Which is so interesting. And I know like every university founder / prof would be like, right there, that's what we're doing. That's what we're after. Can you tell us a little bit, we don't have to go into super detail. I'm very cognizant of our time together, but just a little bit about, a couple of the big shifts that happened or like what about the university experience that changed? Do you think it was for better? Like, tell us a bit about that.
I think it was definitely for better. Coming from a small town, moving to the big city, that was a big change. And then starting university, and especially in being in equity studies, it was a lot about social justice, right? So I think that's when I really started to learn about like institutionalized racism, like the horrors that like the Indigenous issues, all of those types of things that I never would have learned about in high school, and I didn't really learn about it in college. So I feel like those things were huge for me, and like those were my big takeaways, were like those types of like world issues, and then applying that now, and it just changed the way like I view the issues now.
That's huge. That might be like that's one of the most valuable takeaways for sure. And I think that speaks really importantly, a lot of high school students are graduating and, they're on top of the world, they know everything. And it's like that intellectual humility with there is so much more out there, and a literal expanding of the horizon and challenging you to think outside of what you grew up thinking is like normal or true or real is, I can't honestly at the top of my head think of a better gift or a better thing to experience.
No, definitely. I'm very glad that I was able to experience that, and that now I can see the things the way that I see them. I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome. Okay. So that's huge. And then you got just a little bit about the job hunt. How was that for you? And I actually wasn't initially going to ask you about this at all, but this past week we've had quite a few students asking about like, when should I start applying and how does it work? And will it take me 6 months to get it? So just tell us briefly about your experience with getting your job.
So I definitely started thinking about it like middle of the last semester of the fourth year, like beginning to middle of like the second semester. I was definitely like, okay, I got to figure this out. Like, let me start like looking at jobs and just to understand more like what's out there, like what I could apply for, what I'm interested in. So I definitely started doing that while I was still in university, but like at the end, I was lucky enough. So I applied. There was a job. It was a summer student position that the government was hiring for, and I applied for that. I want to say I was still in university, like probably March that they were doing these that they did the call out for it. So I applied for that and I got an interview, and that's kind of how I started right after university. I think I started in May. So
Which
I
is
was really lucky that way.
well, lucky, but also like you worked your butt off. And I think your resume and your cover letter were really strong and all that, but you got your foot in the door like right after.
Yeah, no, right after. And I've been in the government ever since.
Which is awesome. Or not, depending on where you stand in Ontario politics right now.
Seriously.
Okay, so just kind of zooming out then a little bit. Any words of wisdom for if a student is in first or second year university and they're feeling like maybe this isn't for me, this is too hard, like I'm just not cut out to be here. What would you tell them?
I would say stick with it because I never thought I would even go to university. And when I applied to all the universities that I did and got into the majority of them after college, I was like, wow, I'm doing this. I'm going to go. And as hard as it was the first year, first semester, I was so stressed. It was brutal, but I was able to get through it. I asked for help. I sought people's advice. I made those connections, and it made it better. And I think if you're able to do that, get the help that you need, whatever it is, and work through it, I think like it's a great achievement in the long run.
100%. Like, do you think you would have this job that you have, this high paying, stable, amazing job, if you hadn't done that?
Probably not.
Fair. Okay. Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
No, that's okay. So, okay. And then one last point just about as far as your relationship with, your parents or your family, like, because obviously, at least most of the families that we work with, like, it's a very, cohesive family unit. Like, parents are playing a huge role. Obviously, they want their kids to do good. A lot of parents don't know how to make that happen. What would you say in your experience? Like, what was the most helpful thing that your parents did for you to get you over that hump and get you feeling, like you said, like less stressed, not stressed because there's always going to be a little bit, but like feeling good and like onto this really happy, healthy path?
I think it's just my parents were always supportive. I think that was the number one thing that I felt that I could always go to them and I told them like what I was struggling with. And they always just said like, stay with it, be positive. They were always encouraging and they were always just supportive of get the help if you need it. If you need the help, we're here for you and we'll support you getting the help that you need. So I just think that overall was the best thing that they could do.
That's huge. So no like shaming or judging as far as like, you need to get these better grades or.
No, definitely not. They were okay if I got 70s or as long as I was okay with it and as long as they knew that I was happy and enjoying the work and enjoying what I was doing, then they were okay with it.
And I think I want to highlight that because I think that's so important and it can be a huge misconception. Like high grades, if you get straight A's, that's fantastic, right? Like 100% hats off, that's wonderful, but it does not in any way correlate to like securing a fantastic job in your field that you love after school. And I think like you're great proof of that. Like you got a mix of grades, right? Some good, some average, like, but the thing was that you put your all into actually whatever the grade was. And
exactly.
you ended up with this fantastic. Molly just got a big raise recently too, which is, I'm just going to announce that, but like, holy crap, like you're killing it. Like you're absolutely crushing it as a young professional and you didn't get straight A's. So, students listening to this, like there is massive success awaiting for you. Even if you don't, if you get a B on a paper, it's not the end of the world.
No, exactly. That's very true.
Yeah, very true. Okay. So last but not least, what, if anything, do you wish that you would have known in high school? Like we mentioned grades earlier, but like, is there anything else if you could go back to grade 12 Molly or Molly about to graduate from college and tell her something, like what would it be?
I don't know. I guess maybe just have that confidence that you can do it. I don't think I had the confidence. I don't think I ever thought I'd go to university. So I think to have that confidence that you can do it no matter what, if it is having to go to college after high school, before you go to university, if it's getting support, tutoring, all of that, like just having that confidence that anyone can do it and you deserve it.
Hell yes. I love that. You can like believe in yourself because you can
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, 100%. And you do deserve it. That's awesome. Molly, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us today. You are so inspiring and like just absolutely hats off to you because you worked hard, you overcame your challenges, and you're crushing it. So
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure.
awesome. All right. And for anybody watching or listening, Molly started out by reaching out for help, right? We do calls every week with people who are on a path in school that they might not love, parents who want to help their kids get on a better path. It's what we do best. And it would be an honor and a privilege to help you do the same. So definitely feel free to reach out. I'll post the link just below in the chat there to book a call. And again, Molly, thank you. And everybody else, we'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.